Hello and welcome to part one of our three-part webinar series, Data Center Innovations, What's New and What's Changing, presented by Digital Zone and sponsored by Eaton. I'm Michael Krieger and I'll be your moderator. Today for part one, we'll be chatting with Ed Spears, Product Manager CPDI at Eaton. Ed, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Mike, and welcome everybody.
So Ed, a lot has changed with battery technology over the last few years. What does this mean for the data center and for UPSs?
Well, it's a pretty dramatic change in an industry that doesn't change very often. Data center operators are very risk averse and they're very prone to doing the things the way Grandpa did because they know they work. So when a new technology comes on the scene, the uptake rate can be very slow. And they may say, well, after you've got a 10-year track record here, then I'll consider buying your new product. But batteries have been a bit of a sticking point, even though they're the best backup time for the dollar and have been for 40 to 50 years. There's also, customers have concerns with the size and the weight, the need to recycle sulfuric acid, electrolyte, lead plates, and things like that. And also their ability to be able to know intuitively or via monitoring whether that battery is in fact going to provide the backup time that they need. So they often come to us as power equipment vendors and say, forget your fancy power electronics. We need a better battery or a better battery experience. And for all too often, lead acid has been the only way to go, and it is the tried and true standard. But starting in about 2016, 2017, as an industry, we began to take lithium batteries very seriously as an alternative to traditional UPS batteries. And in those days, it was a good alternative from a performance standpoint and a reliability standpoint, but the cost was 7 to 8 times the cost for the same backup time in a lead battery. So that was a pretty big challenge. And we didn't have much interest early on and lots of concerns about the new technology. But then the price or cost of lithium systems began to plummet very steeply, especially over 2019 and 2020, to the point where a lithium ion battery solution became almost the same cost as a traditional lead acid solution, but with the advantages of a 10-year service life, smaller size, and lighter weight. So when the cost came into line, we started to see customers change their minds and at least be willing to give lithium a trial in their new data center, et cetera. And the results have been so impressive over the last 5 years that we've seen a huge change in the actual choices that customers are making for their battery backup.
So what are the pros and cons of lithium ion versus traditional UPS batteries?
Well, the first ones that immediately come to mind are smaller size and lighter weight. Well, how much? Well, they're about 40 to 60% smaller than the same backup time in a lead acid battery and about 40% less weight. So that means smaller footprint. It means easier installation, easier service access, just not having to deal with the size and weight of traditional UPS batteries. They can operate, at least for short periods at a time, at a higher temperature or lower temperature. You still want to keep temperature close to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, but they do perform better than traditional batteries at temperature extremes. The ability to do lots of charge-discharge cycles over a 10-year guaranteed life is huge. But the biggest thing is that 10-year warranted service life of the battery. Traditional UPS batteries today, be replacing them every 5 to 6 years, and that's disruptive and costly. And some conservative users go ahead and replace them every 4 years to make sure they don't suffer a failure. That's a pretty big cost impediment there that is alleviated by the use of lithium batteries.
Wow. So how does the addition of lithium ion impact planning in the data center?
Well, that's an extremely important point. This technology is new to us. It's new to our end users and their engineers. It's new to the electrical and fire inspectors and insurance inspectors that are responsible for the safety of a facility. And so that means planning and consultation becomes an extremely important point here. All too often in UPS systems, we're dealing with lead acid batteries. We've been dealing with them for 40 years. Everybody knows what to do, how to do it, and how to plan an installation. But with lithium batteries, the new fire codes and NFPA 855, for example, have some pretty restrictive language around the deployment of lithium systems. Because remember, lithium's systems have been made by the millions for your phone and your laptop, and they're very reliable and very safe, and they ought to be really, really inexpensive because so many of them are made. But your cell phone battery weighs about 4 ounces. Your UPS battery may have 8 or more 1,200-pound lithium cabinets associated with that UPS. That is a lot of new chemistry and new technology, and it gets a lot of attention in the local codes. So there's restrictive language like how much lithium can you put in a room? Where can you put that room in the building? What are the abilities for fire suppression and fire extinguishing? What kind of ventilation do I need to have? And the code requires spacing between lithium cabinets unless you can have the inspector waive that requirement in the presence of what they call UL 9540A test reports that basically show that if there is a thermal event, call it a fire, that the flames will not propagate to adjacent cabinets or to the wall next to these batteries. So with that information, we don't want to be making those decisions and finding out requirements on installation day. We want to sit down with the local authority having jurisdiction, fire inspector, building inspector, insurance inspector, and say, here's what I'm planning to do with this new installation. Here's where I want to put it. Here's how much of it. And then let the inspectors and the experts tell the user what they can accept, anything special that they may need to do. And that way, when you get to installation day, you've already got the plan in place.
That makes perfect sense to me. So what's the uptake been on lithium ion overall?
Well, as we said at the outset, in a business that doesn't change very often, I've been absolutely shocked at the speed at which transitions have been made from traditional UPS batteries to lithium ion batteries. Now, it's still a lot of lead acid batteries are being used for UPSs of all sizes. That's still the primary battery selection. But from 2017 to here and now, we've seen in our large UPS business, and not just us, but our competitors, large UPS being 200 kilowatts up to 1.5 megawatts or 2 megawatts. We went from zero uptake on lithium in 2017 to today. We have 60% of our large UPS systems go out the door with lithium batteries. Again, a dramatic change that has been a surprise to everybody involved.
That's astounding. Well, thanks, Ed. That's all we have time for today. Please join us for parts 2 and 3 of this series. Part 2 will cover data center connectivity, and part 3 will look at new UPS use cases, including monetization of new data center UPS technology, thanks to the reduction in size and footprint. Thanks again to Ed and Eaton for sponsoring this webinar series for Digital Zone. I'm Michael Krieger.